Well, hello. So it's not spring yet, but it is getting pretty close. And I'm starting to think of all the wonderful things that are coming. The fresh berries, the homemade preserves. And while I don't have the things to pick yet, I do have the homemade preserves still in the basement. And so I got out some of my favorites, some raspberry preserves, which I just love. I love raspberry, and I'm making my favorite raspberry crumb bar. This is really simple, and what I love about it is do whatever jam you have. If it is a bottom jam, whatever your favorite one is, blueberry, blackberry, strawberry, they would all work in this. And so it can kind of be fitted for whatever you happen to have. Raspberry is my favorite. It's a super simple bar. We don't have any mixers. We can do it all by hand, and we're gonna do it right now because I just think it's fun and I think it's a really good one. So in my bowl, I'm gonna put some flour. What I love is these are like a raspberry oat bar. Kind of like they have the crummy, oaty streusel topping that you would get on all your favorite kind of treats, except it's into a bar, and that's what I love. So we have some flour just to kind of bind everything together, and we're scooping it, and then we're swiping it off. You don't ever wanna press flour in because you end up getting way too much flour. Then we're gonna add some oats, just old-fashioned rolled oats. I love just the texture that oats give, but also that flavor that they impart. That to me is just so perfect. We're gonna add some brown sugar because you need the sweetness. And brown sugar, I love that it has some molasses notes in it, so it kind of gets that caramely note. And I love that, especially with the raspberries. Along with that, we're gonna add, of course, some salt. Super important. Anything sweet, it just balances it out. And you definitely need it a little bit. Now just a little bit of baking soda. It just kind of elevates it. It kind of lifts it slightly. It just a little bit though goes a long way. And then some cinnamon. I think cinnamon goes amazingly well with raspberries and with a lot of preserves. And it kind of just is that undertone, that warm kind of cozy spice, but also just brightens everything up, kind of wakes it up, and I just love that. So we're just gonna mix it with our hands. Why dirty anything? We have the sugar, the flour, the salt, the soda. If your brown sugar has bits that are kind of like harder, this is a great way to make sure that you're getting them out of there because your hands can actually just feel them, break them up if your sugar does get too hard, if it does get dried out, which it can. I mean, obviously keep it in an airtight container, but just put like a piece of fresh bread or a sliced piece of bread in the container, close the lid. Within a day, you're gonna have soft. Sometimes I do it with a slice of apple too. There's a lot of ways you could do it. So here's pretty much a base to what? So many different crumb streusel-y mixtures. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut in butter. Now you could use a cutting tool. I'm gonna use a cutting tool, and it's gonna be one that you all have in your kitchens. It's your hands again, yeah. I'm gonna use my hands because I just think it works best. So I have the butter cut into, small cubes. There's really no right or wrong here. And just like I do sometimes with pie dough, if I'm making it by hand or with other things, I'm breaking up the butter into these pieces just so they don't stick together. I'm gonna toss them with the flour just to coat them. And you can see, because then what that's gonna help do is they're not gonna stick together. They're gonna be coated in that flour. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna just start picking them up one by one and push them between our thumb and forefinger, making kind of big pieces. And we're just gonna continue to do that until we kind of get a coarse mixture that slightly holds together. So I'm gonna sit here, do this. I'm gonna look out the window. It is just fun. That's what's fun about baking. You're just gonna have fun doing it. It's gonna take a little bit of time, and then it's gonna have a crumb mixture. It's that simple. So as you can see, I've been mixing this up and just pushing it through my hands, and you're getting this nice kind of rough cut, almost cornmeal or a little bit bigger texture. And how I always know if it's done, I pick some up in my hands, I make a fist. You can tell it holds together, but then it can just break apart back into that crumble. Then you know you're like done. So at this point, we can just assemble the bars. That's how easy, that's why I love this. It's super easy. So I have my pan and I put a sling of just some parchment paper that I folded just to make sure it fits. This is just gonna make sure they release from the pan really easily. You don't then have to worry about them sticking, which no one wants to do. So I'm gonna take some of the mixture. I'm gonna put it down at the bottom of the pan. That's what's great about this. We're using the same mixture on the bottom, we're putting it on top. It just kind of is that perfect marriage of everything being really easy. So I'm gonna spread it out, just roughly to a even kind of thickness, and then just kind of press it, and then start pressing it slightly more. So this is creating a crust. So a streusel can be used in multiple ways. It's kind of creating that almost shortbread type crust, but it has the oats in it. And so it'll be that perfect kind of base layer. And if you want to and make sure, you can take the bottom of a measuring and you can just press it, make sure, and it kind of helps it get even too if you do it this way. And that's what I love. It's just kind of that simple way. And you don't need to like put all your weight on it, but you know, just make it so it's somewhat a good crust. And that's our base layer. Super simple. Now we're gonna take the star, the preserves, and I'm just gonna start by dolloping them kind of around, because it kind of can be hard to spread something when it's such a kind of short crust underneath like that. And so to make it easier, if you make dollops kind of all around, it makes it just a little bit easier than to spread it out. So this delicious preserve is really the star of the show, and you're just making these kind of oat-like squares for it. And I wanna make sure to get it all out. I do not wanna waste any of it. Delicious, I love it. I do. I love when you just have a good spread. So I'm using an offset spatula. And you can see, at first it could get kind of messy, but you can kind of just slowly be spreading it out all around, into the edges, into the corners. And that's what's great about this. Now, to amplify it, which it has tons of flavor on its own, I just like to also have some of the real fruit in there too. And since, again, I do not have anything to go out and pick, we're gonna use some that I froze last year. So just any frozen berries. So if you're doing a blueberry jam, which I really think you should make these first with the raspberry, because I think it's like the best. I'm gonna put some fresh raspberries on it that are frozen, but they were fresh when they were frozen, so they have all that flavor. I think we just need to not worry sometimes off season about, because you know what, when you buy fresh fruit out of season, it doesn't always have the best flavor. So I have the raspberries spread there. Now I'm gonna add the frozen raspberries. And they've been sitting out of the freezer for a little bit, but they're still pretty frozen. I'm just spreading them out. And what's nice is it kind of adds that good flavor, adds a different layer of texture, and it kind of just for sure lets you know and drives home what kind of jam that is, which I like. Nothing too major, just kind of spread all over. And now again, we have this wonderful crumb topping. So I like to make a fist of it and just kind of have it break off in some chunks, because I love those craggy bits. I don't want it to just all be fine. I like kind of the big pieces of it. So I'm gonna continue to do this and we'll pop it in the oven. So you can see we have it all on top. We have some bigger pieces, some smaller pieces, which as they bake, you'll have then those craggy bits with, guys, that's what I love. So I'm gonna put these in the oven. We're gonna bake them. They're gonna get golden and toasty. We'll have to let them cool slightly, but then we'll cut them up and we will have some delicious raspberry oat bars. Oh, they're so good. Here they are. So we took them out of the oven and they had to cool, because if we would have cut them, that filling in the middle wouldn't have been set up completely. And so you have to let them cool off pretty much to room temperature. But as you can see, this is what I love. You get some of the big pieces on top. You get like kind of a streusel-like. And then the hope is always that they're just going to lift out, which you kind of have to get that corner. And don't feel bad if you just have to, like, on the edges, slightly take your knife and just kind of make sure it's released. I wish you could smell these. You got the cinnamon, and it just has this wonderful kind of warming, but like, I don't know. It has just this perfect smell. So you're gonna take them out. Look at them. They're so beautiful. And that's what I love about how simple they are. There's just like a simplistic beauty in them. We're just gonna cut them. You get a little bit of that crust on the bottom, which I like. So kind of like that crust layer is a little bit more crispy. I'm just gonna get a nice big square. I like to cut these kind of in a nice, kind of bigger piece. And look, oh, that to me is perfect. Look at that. You get the raspberry jam kind of layer. You get that crust on the bottom. It almost takes on a different form than the streusel on top. I mean, That was Kip's cue. He heard me say and now he's here. You know, these are delicious. That just a little bit of cinnamon, you don't taste the cinnamon, but it complements the jam and the raspberry in there so well. And the oat, it just really brings it out. It's kind of that like perfect marriage of that like comfy, cozy bar. And it has a crispness to it and a little bit of a sharpness in the fresh berry that kind of balances it all out. It's that perfect almost spring to remind you of the flavors that are coming. It's one of my favorite bars. I hope you try them. I hope you love them as much as I do because they really are. They almost has like a crisp. You know, you make a fresh berry crisp or a rhubarb crisp. It kind of has those ideas and flavors, and that's what I love. So I hope you try them. Most of all, I hope you share this recipe around. Share it to your friends, put it on your walls and your stories. Yes, it of course helps me, but it also helps so many people see all these fun, easy recipes. Because guess what? It's super easy if I can do it. I know you can do it. We can all do it. And I think the world can be a better place with just having some fun and some delicious food in the kitchen. So try them out, check the recipe out on wiseguide.com, my website. This recipe, so many other recipes. Stick around, enjoy it, and make some bars. They're good. You're gonna be glad you did.